the biggest pro that you have from this is the loyalty and trust that comes along with it. How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you back to the Way of the Wolf. Last week, I had the opportunity to present at an executive strategy session for one of our clients. It was an incredible experience being able to sit in for a couple of days, watch and see the things that they're working through and struggling with as an organization, and then be able to present on the back end around prioritization of initiatives, talent management, and just leading and building cultures of performance. One of the things that we talked about at depth was talent management. Now, this is a challenge that I'm seeing with a lot of business leaders this day and age. Whenever it comes to leading and building teams, it's a very real challenge. And a lot of organizations are starting to recognize how big of an issue it is for them. As the conversation unfolded, I shared with them, you really have two options. You can build the talent, or you can buy the talent. So I'm going to talk through both of these approaches, the pros and cons of each, because there are pros and cons to each approach. First thing I want to talk about is buying the talent or hiring the talent. There are going to be challenges or cons, if you will, to hiring new people in your organization. First, you are probably going to have to pay a premium. Whenever you hire talent from outside, you might have to pay them more than the people that you have inside your organization. You're doing that because you are paying for or buying the skills that they bring to your business. Another challenge you may run into is clashing of ideas and cultures and figuring out how to assimilate them in to your team and your culture. So you have to be aware of this dynamic as a leader. Far too many examples of leaders hiring somebody and just throwing them to the wolves and saying, sink or swim, go make it happen, be successful. Yes, some people can navigate those waters and be successful, but you are going to be much more successful as an organization, as in a team, if you take the time to train them and develop them and figure out how to best blend them into the team. You have to be intentional about it. The biggest pro that I've kind of touched on when it comes to hiring talent is you are able to quickly bring those skill sets into your organization and increase the productivity or output of your team or teams that you have that you're responsible for leading. This is a good thing. You are inevitably going to encounter a little bit of headbutting, a little bit of clashing. You have to make sure that as the leader of the team, that you are aware of this and know how to guide them through it. The second thing I want to touch on is building the talent. I save this for last because it is near and dear to my heart. It is something that it's my purpose in life, building and developing leaders to help them build and develop more leaders. Now, there are cons when it comes to building talent. The first con is really going to be the time it takes to develop leadership skills, or any new skill for that matter. But when it comes to building leadership skills, there's going to be challenges. It's going to take time. Whenever you work with somebody, whether it be a coach or a mentor or some third-party company to come in and help develop those skills, you can accelerate that timeline and shrink the feedback loop and increase the cycles at which they're able to apply that knowledge. But it is something that takes time. You can't just throw somebody into a manager role and say, lead, and expect them to not struggle at all. Some people are intrinsically driven and will take the time and put forth the initiative to go out and learn those skills on their own. But as you're growing your business, make sure that you're figuring out how, as a senior leader, you are being intentional about building the people on your team. The biggest pro that you have from this is the loyalty and trust that comes along with it. You also end up gaining new skills in your team and leadership team, or whatever function they're in. You're able to add new skills to the team, increase their productivity and output. And when you stack that on top of all of their tacit knowledge of the company, of the team, of the organization, they end up performing at an extremely high level. You also end up inspiring trust and building a loyal following because people will recognize when you are investing in them. How many times have you worked for a company or a boss where you raised your hand and said, I really want to learn more about leadership. I really want to learn more about configuring servers. And your boss is, oh, cool, that's great. There's tons of information on YouTube. That can be deflating for a person that actually wants to take the initiative. So as an organization, as a senior leader, have systems in place to build and develop the talent in your organization. History has shown probably only 20 to 30% of the people are actually going to take advantage of these opportunities that are given. That's fine. That's great. That helps you identify and work with those top performers that you want to see succeed and help build your company and take it to the next level. I'm actually going to flash back to a quote that I heard from Sterling. I think it was on an episode back in year one. It was the motto of their CEO or their leader. I don't remember where he heard it from, but it's build your people and let your people build the business. Crazy ass concept. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty wild. But something to consider. Now, the few things that I want to touch on as I start to wrap this up is there is no silver bullet. There is no magic answer. You really will ultimately have to take a blended approach because as the organization ebbs and flows and grows, and then sometimes you have a global pandemic, you have to let people go. There's always going to be ups and downs in every business vertical. You will sometimes have to take a blended approach where if you are growing faster than you can actually develop and build the talent in your organization, you have to make a decision, a strategic decision for the good of the business to go hire that talent and bring it in. You're going to have to contend with assimilating them into your culture. When you have a longer runway, take the time to build and develop and invest in the people on your team. Again, a blended approach is what you need to focus on because every business is going to be different. Every leader is going to be different. As a leader, you might not be strong in terms of identifying the strengths and weaknesses and who needs to be developed and how. Last thing I want to ask you is, are you developed enough as a leader to recognize whether you can build the talent on your team or if you have to go buy it? And then once you've made that decision, are you also developed enough as a leader to make the most of that decision? These are things that you have to think through. I would encourage you to put a considerable amount of effort and thought into thinking through these things. Maybe solicit feedback from the people on your team, get their perspective. Oh, this is actually a really good point. If you have to go outside the organization and pull someone in, make sure that you are having conversations with the existing people on your team, because inevitably there is going to be someone that wants that job. That's okay. If they are not ready to take on that role, you need to be comfortable in having a crucial conversation to explain why they're not ready. Don't just say, hey, we don't have the skills in-house, we're going to go hire it. Again, pretty deflating for that manager or engineer that has been busting their ass to try to grow into that manager or director role. Come on, just be honest with them. Talk them through. I would love to put you into this director role, but we need somebody with experience in leading 15 engineers, and we need them to be able to come in and hit the ground running. We'd like for you to be a part of the interview process because we value and appreciate you. You can interview for this role, but here are the skills that we need for this role. They can look at the skills needed. They can look at their current skill set. There will be a gap. If that gap is too significant, therein lies your answer. And it should be an easier conversation. I say easier, it's never going to be easy telling somebody that they're not equipped for a role and we don't have time to develop them. But you can let them know we're going to continue investing in developing them. And when future opportunities arise, then they will be the fit, but they have to meet certain criteria. All right, so these are just a few different things that I've processed through after that conversation last week. Build or buy. Those are your choices. There's pros and cons to each. If you need help in figuring them out, reach out to me. Shoot me a message, Sean at the Way of the Wolf. Hit me up on social medias, Sean Barnes or _Sean Barnes everywhere. Happy to help out and have some conversations around that front. Last thing I'm going to ask, if you have been listening to the show for any period of time and have not had an opportunity to leave a review, if you could just take 20, 30 seconds, it would mean the absolute world to me. That helps push the algorithm out there and get it in front of more and more people, and we can positively impact and influence the people that are also listening and possibly help change their lives. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much, and y'all have a good one.